Welcome to the Fantasy Sanctuary, everybody. We are honored to bring our very special guest, Nez of the BadgeBros and Underdog, on to talk with us some ball, some camp, what matters, what doesn't, because it's Best Ball Mania Mondays, baby. Nez, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I don't know how much of your, how much your freak flag you let fly here, but I will say today I made a pretty good joke about coming on to this show on the Badge Bros.
Yeah, I missed it. I've been stuck
No,
in
it's okay.
meetings
No, I
all
get
day.
it. Sure. So we were talking, today we actually had a show that didn't go to 2 hours. And John was like, we're going to keep it nice and tight. And I said, speaking of nice and tight, I'm joining Tyler and T-Strack on the show today. And
Yeah.
I was pretty happy about that.
No, that's a solid rep. We love that. Some would disagree that I keep it tight. I've gotten a lot of loose allegations. I'll leave up to the imagination reasons. But
no. Tom just left without a mic, just having to deal with it.
We still don't have audio on you, Tom. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like we heard him in the green room, and then he just kind of like, and then. Yeah.
If you ever feel really good about your setup as a streamer, you will be humbled. Technology will always remind you that it is in control and it doesn't like you because you're organic and it's going to give you a hard time. Mm-hmm. You may have to just leave and come back. I don't know, Tom. We'll vamp. It's all good.
Yeah. No, we got things to cover.
How was first Father's Day for the Nez household?
It was great, man. It was great. Felt the love. Got to hang. Spend some quality time with the kid, like I always do. I'm very much an active dad in little Mello's life. But we went to Top Golf. That was nice. That was fun. Got to swing the stick around. Ate some good apps. Spent some time with the in-laws. I didn't get this sort of greeting on, my wife, of course, made a post. It's the first Father's Day. They're calling it Baby Daddy Day now. That's what that's what the kids are calling it.
No. I've not heard this, and I'm fighting tooth and nail to rename it to Cream Pie Day to be really inclusive. To be honest.
Well, we definitely don't call it that over here. I don't know if you can hear me now, but
yes. Great to hear you.
Yes, much better. Apologies for that. Like I say, must have just knocked him as we came live. But Nez, like, how are you feeling about best ball summer? Like, it feels like, once mini camp kind of wraps up, it's kind of time to start taking your stands. Are you locking in on the stuff that you really want to feel strong about?
I'm like slowly, and I don't even know why I'm saying slowly. I am quickly getting my takes very solidified and very much taking my stances on where I think, the edges lie in this, 2025 season of best ball for sure. I wasn't, it did take me a little bit, but once I, really got my feet wet and like, I've been like going crazy with the slow drafts, pumping out fast drafts at night when I can. And I've quickly realized like what I like in this current iteration of best ball. And I'm having a lot of fun with it, man. I think this is like the most fun I've had drafting best ball so far. I mean, other than the Bijan Crochet, which, that was a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying my drafts right now. And hopefully I'm right. That'd be fun.
Hopefully I am right. Put it on my tombstone.
Hopefully I'm right. Who among us doesn't wish?
No, I love that. That's also very funny. Just to get one more loose comment. I love that you're just like, I'm on my phone pumping them out. No, baby, it's drafts. It's drafts. Everybody's asleep. It's time to rip it. No, I feel similar. Like I feel like the pockets feel pretty solidified. There's one or two guys moving up or down. Outside of that, the pockets have pretty much, they are what they are. You feel comfortable about how you can play those pockets. Even with like a chaos draft room, you feel like, hey, these guys are going to be here. These guys are going to be here. And it feels much more actionable to kind of like plan your draft backwards now based on the first couple picks. Mm-hmm. Whereas, a month ago, you were like, dude, I don't know how these next 2-3 rounds are going to go if the room gets, squirrely. So that's made it more fun to kind of like play chess with your draft room, especially.
Yeah, fully agree.
Oh no, did we lose Tom's audio again? Do you have like a button? I know some of our friends have mics with buttons that get bumped every once in a while.
But yeah, what your point about like reverse engineering the draft, I think, it is really how I like to approach these drafts. Like knowing who's available at certain pockets really helps dictate how I go about, the first half of my draft for sure. It's a lot of like best player available, but at a certain point you got to know where you're going. And side tangent sort of, but like I have been, dabbling over, on DK as well with, with their best ball, just because like obviously it's $15 million prize pool over there. I want to, take shots over there too. And everyone always talks about how it's soft over there. And sure, the player pool is softer. I maybe I just need more reps. I find it harder over there, mostly just because like maybe the field's unpredictable, but just because like I can't do that reverse engineering stuff as well as I can on UD. And it's probably just a reps thing. But yeah.
Even with reps, I think your point about like underdog drafters, there's more like there's more predictability about how runs will go, how pockets will play out. Super sharp rooms, there's not a lot of room to navigate, but you understand where the train is headed outside of like maybe one or two crazy folks. And like even in a draft where someone's like soaking up all the quarterbacks, you understand not everybody's going to react in kind. Whereas at DK, it truly is like every room, you have no idea. Are they going to stick to ADP, or like what positional runs are going to happen? Who's going to fall 3 rounds? You have no idea draft to draft. Like I've done at least probably 20 or 30 drafts the last 2 months. And every time I'm in a room, I just have to be like, dude, I have no idea how this is going to play out. And I have no idea who's going to be available, what kind of risk I'm taking. Like I leave every room and one position feels like, man, I got left behind, and I tried my best. So it's tough.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Nez, I don't know if you guys can hear me because my mic seems to be in the min. But like, are you drafting in the Superflex contest at all? I know people are quite opinionated one way or the other on that, but like this feels like the kind of time of year that if you are going to draft Superflex, it's a time where you can take advantage of the ambiguity at quarterback.
Yeah, no, I've really grown to enjoy Superflex quite a bit, and I think it for me it was just like a prize pool thing. I only have so much bandwidth to draft on Underdog, and granted, it's literally all I do. But like I do have my limits, and last year their Superflex contest was 300K. And like, I'm not trying to sneeze at like 30K to first, but there's a lot of drafts going on. And for Superflex, just like all that combined, I was like, I'm good. But this year it's a $1 million prize pool. I'm like, I need to take shots at this, especially because I think that there is an edge, because it is sort of like what we were talking about with, DK versus Underdog. Superflex is a much less familiar territory, and there's not the reps there's not the data, there's not the content. So yeah, all that to say, I have been taking shots at Superflex. It's been a lot of slow drafts for me, but you're absolutely right. This is totally the time to take advantage of the ambiguity, and really at any point throughout the season, like there's ambiguity. I just saw a stat, and this is strictly just from last year, but the quarterbacks that started week 1, 60% of them started in week 17. The same ones that started in week 1. I mean, that is wild. That is truly wild. Yeah. I know you still got to get there, bro, but it is like kind of crazy, like that ambiguity, and nobody is, going outside of that top 32 mostly.
Yeah, I think it's like there's loads of interesting questions with it, and like it kind of comes back to what we talked about as like an idea to open the show, was talking about like those things around what really.
Dude, oh my goodness. I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah, I think your internet might just be fighting against you, Tom. I'm not sure. This is gonna send the man to his limits, the poor guy.
And then I just look. I was watching Tom, and then out of nowhere, there's your dog behind you.
Yeah, it's nice and thundery on my end as well, as he tries to get shelter from the elements here. No. Yeah, I kind of echo your sentiments that like there's only so much bandwidth, especially for those of us in relationships where time spent doing the hobby is measured against the life you have left on this earth.
Yes, yes.
And a little bit of variety is nice, and it is nice to get in some different rooms where, you know, you're like, I might have a better chance at like banking, just because, you know, I wouldn't say necessarily the rooms are softer. I would just say like the chaos lends itself both ways, and any ability to kind of like sneak that in. But yeah, I think like even with Superflex, even with content, I think all that kind of lends itself to just like contest selection is still like very important to take a look at, like overall prizes, advance rates, what the structures lend themselves to, how your draft style might like. I mean, not all of us are like cut out to be like the best drafter in every contest, every format, even before like, you know, variance humbles all of us. So it's like I think it's very prudent to just like look and attack contests that like suit you really well. And so like, you know, I know some folks that really enjoy the super flex streets and they feel much more at home navigating those, as and normal drafters that are like, I don't like super flex because I have no idea how to play these rooms. And so it's like your comfort levels and your edge, especially like as edge kind of dries up. Like, you know, 3 years ago, coach speak and injury stuff, like untapped edge to be like, man, no one's taking this stuff into account in a good measured way. Now, 5 doctors with databases, with Twitter threads, we have coach speak index literally discording and tweeting away. So it's like the edges are evaporating every day. So if you can get in contests that you feel really, really strong in attacking and you feel like people are not attacking well, then I mean, that's where I would urge you to push your chips in. For sure. So I think it's a salient point to not stay tethered unnecessarily.
Ooh, I hear you, Tom.
I'm back, am I?
You're back.
Yes.
Right. I'm just not going to touch a single thing now. It's just, too many streams, too many videos on one day, and clearly all my equipment is just to say to give it a ghost, because it's, you know, I don't want to brag, guys, but it is hot over here in the UK, and we're currently sitting at 25 Celsius at 11 o'clock at night, which in Fahrenheit is 77 degrees, I believe, and it's definitely classed as a hot one for us.
I mean, at night too, especially that night heat sucks.
Yeah, my God.
Are we into the best ball streets? I kind of lost touch what was happening there. Are we on the clock? Are we waiting for more people to fill, Tyler?
Waiting on 3.
Waiting on 3. Like, I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention to it, but does it feel like BBM's filling a bit slower than usual at this point in year? Yeah,
it's frustrating.
I mean, I would say I can speak from my standpoint. I've only done 8 BBM so far. So, you know, if I'm a sample of 1 user out of the 600,000 user, tournament. But yeah, no, I'm taking my time on BBM. I do plan on maxing, but there's just I'm really focused on these time box contests right now, and my other stuff. Just knowing that BBM will be there, and I do think that the information edge is it's minute, but I do think it can help, and I'm looking for any edge I can get in BBM. So yeah, I am. I'm kind of waiting. I do plan on doing a lot of other, I want to do the eliminator as well, and I am sort of like slow burning that one. But yeah, no, I'm probably going to be like 100 in August or 120 in August type of guy.
Nice. And in terms of like getting an edge, we got the 101 here.
It's
pretty rare. So who are we pulling up to the 101? Should we pull Christian McCaffrey up and just
obviously he's going to end up 101 anyway, right?
I'll say, guys, I think this is the loosest, and don't even mute yourself, Tyler. Don't even make this is the loosest that ADP I think has been after the 101 that like I can truly remember. Like
I agree.
I really thought that there was way more rigidness in every single pick slot, and I think after Jamar Chase, and maybe No, I'll just say straight up after Jamar Chase. There's, I think it's 50% of the time it's J. Jeff, like 50% of the time it's Saquon. And even at the 3 hole, I'm not even like you see Bijan here. Like I don't ever remember this much. Like
the tiers are so flat and the tiers are so much bigger as well. It's like as opposed to there's years where in round 1 you'll have tiers of 2 players. Now it seems like you've got maybe a tier of you know, if you want to break it down as Chase on his own, fine. And then it's like 2 tiers of 4 after that, which really I don't mind picking. And again, it's one of those years where I feel like if you're at 5% exposure or above on everyone in round 1, then you're probably going to come out of things okay.
Yeah. To Nez's point, like in years past, no matter how the first 3 slotted out, you knew who you were getting at 5.
Yeah.
This year, I have no idea who's coming to me at 5, and it's making me like hate picks 7 through 9 because I'm not getting the wrap, which I'm really preferring. Of like, I just want to get 2. I want someone in the 1 hole to decide they want to gift me, 2 of the top guys in the top 13, and by ADP. I love all those guys, like splitting hairs. So give me as many combos as I can get. And 7 and 9, I get none of the falling value of the top 5. I get none of the falling value from the bottom. And like, I just feel like I'm having to make tough decisions in tiers I don't care to split hairs on. Like, it's brutal. And and through the first 3, it dictates so much of your construction to make those choices.
It should. Yeah, it absolutely should if it doesn't. Like for me personally, man, like Hartman in here stealing my thunder. CD's my 1 of the 3 right now.
I like it.
I'm really shocked that we're getting the CD discount, the Pickens discount, the Dak discount. Like the offense,
what could go wrong?
Famous last words, right? I just can't believe that that people are like understating the impact of George Pickens on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I just like I can't. I'm really shocked that the market is not reacting stronger.
Like George Pickens was someone last year I didn't want to touch because I didn't believe in Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, but it's so easy to believe in Dak because we've seen, and Arthur Smith, but we've seen it from Dak before. We've seen him be a really good fantasy quarterback, and we've seen CeeDee Lamb just absolutely soak up targets. Like in that brief period before they traded for George Pickens, for me, CeeDee Lamb was head and shoulders above Justin Jefferson just because we knew what the quarterback situation was going to be. And now we're knocking Lamb down because George Pickens there. Meanwhile, now there's a wide receiver on that team who's actually going to draw some attention as opposed to last year when it was Jalen Tolbert. Like, I'm completely fine taking CeeDee Lamb at 102. It kind of comes down to that game theory part of, do I need to? And generally, like I was saying, I tend to be a bit more balanced in the first round if unless I've got real strong stands. But like we see Christian McCaffrey going at the 7th spot. Is now the time, Nez, that we should be hammering Christian McCaffrey on the back of OTAs and minicamp when all the news was positive because his price is only going to get more expensive?
I do wonder, like, that is sort of the assumption is like he will get more expensive. I do wonder how much more expensive he will be just because the injury risk is still like this isn't the first time that we've got burned by Christian McCaffrey. I still think the market is going to kind of be hesitant on McCaffrey. If you want to play that angle, I think sure. I don't think he's going to get cheaper, obviously, unless he gets hurt. But I think from a game theory standpoint, trying to get out ahead of that and then you can mix it up like in August. Yeah, I think that does actually make sense. All right, we're about to be on the clock here. I'm locking in.
Yeah, so Tyler, any strong lean before we let Nez take at least one of these picks for us?
Nez, where is your heart guiding you?
My heart is guiding me to Josh Jacobs.
All right. Ooh, what would you like to do with the second pick? I am ambivalent to taking a workhorse as the RB2 I like. Has yet to get on the field healthy and get through his rehab.
Being
Marshawn Lloyd.
Right.
Yeah, Jacobs could just be in line for a shitload
That's
of
where
work
I'm
once
at.
Again. Yeah.
This is like easily my least favorite pick. Is pick 25. What do you guys think about Trey McBride? He's sort of like an easy pick.
I don't mind him. I will just say his ADP continues to kind of slip and fall. In smaller contests, he's going to like the 30s, so I'm okay.
Tyreek, unless if you guys want to take a huge risk. Okay, yeah, let's go Trey McBride.
I'd rather go Trey McBride and take that kind of running back wide receiver tight end build, but just going back to Josh Jacobs, like the Packers last year passed the 3rd lowest rate. It was ridiculous how much Josh Jacobs was the entire offense. And I know that people are saying, okay, Matthew Golden shows we want to be pass heavier because they hadn't drafted a wide receiver since like 1750 or whatever. But I'm just not willing to think that they're going to move away from what worked for him. And I think it was like week 10 onwards, Josh Jacobs averaged 20 touches a game for the rest of the year. So I like Josh Jacobs. I probably don't draft him enough.
I like him because, like what Tyler said about, like, you know, Lloyd being, you know, still his health status still seems very much in question. And then like Emmanuel Wilson is there as well. These are fine. Emmanuel Wilson we know is a fine backup. Marshawn Lloyd, we truly still are like unsure of what he is on the field if and when he's healthy. Yeah. Even if they do pass more, like, I don't really care because Josh Jacobs is going to be on the field like 90% of snaps, you know, like presumably. And, you know, he's going to be there in the red zone, which is what I really care about. Like, I just don't see his role going anywhere. And I will also write off Jordan Love's 2024 season due to injury. I will say, you know what, he was hurt. You know, they kind of maybe offenses maybe figured out Jaden Reed. Maybe the receivers just weren't as good as we hoped and thought that they were. Now you add Matthew Golden to that receiving room. I just think that there's a lot of reasons to be bullish again, like we were last year on the Packers. And it's just one of those things that people just, it's going to be the same. And I say that as we take Josh Jacobs at the 1-2 turn, but, you know, or at the 2-3 turn, but
yeah. I mean, hey, Nez, like this opens up the perfect correlation to take some Ravens players though. So like swings around about. So like, I haven't talked enough about Ravens this year.
Yeah. To your point though, like, you know, the pack, to both of your points, the Packers as a LaFleur led team wants to have a neutral-ish, slightly below average, if not right at average pass rate over expected. They like to control the ball with efficient running and efficient passing. They talked about the one thing they want out of the pass game is less drops, more consistency. What surprised me last year was how much they respect JGFC just deciding to double tap QB there.
Stay true to yourself, buddy.
You know what? If it works one time.
When you're taking 52% of players in your top 5 exposures, I believe you're an alpha that just does what he wants to do. But yeah, like Josh Jacobs does not see the kind of targets I'd love for like a legendary like running back. But on half point PPR, when the running back and the system are shown to like basically just like the game plan is the running back. We are going to design, like, even though he wasn't like leading in a lot of targets, I watched him last year. They were just like, we're going to create a dump off. We're going to create a lane for him. He is going to be our engine for moving the ball and scoring touchdowns. And his floor is very safe in that the fact that like the offense just operates as this dynamic matchup personnel to run the ball and get efficient passing. And with Golden, it's really just replacing Watson in this offense to make sure they don't lose speed in a vertical element, to allow them to keep doing the dynamic rush and yak attack that they do. And they talked a lot about that with like Kraft, is like, we want to continue making ways for like Kraft to get the ball, and for like, and we saw a lot of like the Wicks things, like and Reed's ability, just like, we want to get them open, we want to space it out. And we've seen these like McVay, Shanny style offenses be players we want parts of and pieces of. So I certainly don't want to fade that too hard, especially for the running back in question. Because any given week, you know, Jacobs showed us he had a really solid ceiling and floor. You know, to your point for that, and by allowing us to have an anchor running back in the first few rounds, a little bit of flexibility to play these rooms, which I think is an underrated aspect, to not like get boxed out of having to do, like, I want to be able to play the room as it lays out, and I don't have to pass up on something that looks good because I've deviated one way or the other.
Exactly.
So, I'll be back on the clock. Appreciate you, Justin. Truly, very much love it. We're about on the clock now. George Pickens, Cortland Sutton, Devonta Smith, all around there. Anyone else you'd make a shout for, Nez?
I do like George Pickens. I do think the Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts double tap is interesting. I would probably prefer Pickens. What do you guys want to do? If you guys want to double tap the Eagles, I'm okay with it. But
double tapping the Eagles is fun, but you talked about Pickens.
I like Pickens a lot, man.
Let's go Pickens. What do we want to do with the second click? Flowers, a little bring back to Jacobs.
It's week 17 correlation.
And I'm also.
Tom, are you okay with taking Flowers without Lamar?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Yeah, I'm fine with Zay Flowers here. I think, and then we're in a good spot with wide receiver.
All right.
I mean, yeah, obviously Flowers heavily correlates to Lamar, but I just think that when you look at what he is as a wide receiver, it's not necessarily the most consistent, but we're already shooting on ceiling outcomes with George Pickens. And really, you know, we've got Trey McBride who has to hit in a meaningful way. And I think with Zay Flowers, felt like he disappeared a little bit down the back half of the season. But I
Mm-hmm.
just believe in young wide receivers who've shown us they have talent. And
Mm-hmm.
we haven't really seen a negative side to Flowers. Why can he not take another step forward? So yeah, I'm very much fine with that one. I think the tier there is quite flat, and I do like your idea around the Eagles double tap. Could have been quite fun. I just think then with only Jamar Chase, it probably would have gotten a little bit tricky by the time it came back around for us at wide receiver after that. Have you done many Eagles double taps on the wrap like that?
I haven't, but I am doing for whatever reason. Like I'm messing around in the sprint as well, and just because like it's like fresh in my mind, and I've done I'm doing sprint slows and I'm doing the fast because they had the promo for it on Underdog.
Yeah.
I've been getting a lot of naked hurts, and I'm kind of like I don't know if it's just because I've done it enough, but like I'm like damn near talking myself into it being optimal. And like, do you even want a pass catcher with Jalen Hurts? Like,
I don't know.
don't you sort of just want like him to just have like a shitty game where all he's doing is rushing and like nobody else for the Eagles is doing anything, and it's just like tush push season and it's 3 rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts, and like that's 18 point. I mean, obviously it's 3 rushing touchdowns, that's a lot, but it's he just like he does that type of stuff. So I've been trying to like Galbrain myself into naked Jalen Hurts, and I think Zay Flowers naked is something that's a leak in my game. Like I think I think of him too much as like a tie to Lamar when he's just like a really good wide receiver, straight up. So I need to get more of that.
What other teams would you say, Nez, you feel like you don't want anything to do with a player unless you've got the quarterback?
I mean, I think Terry is a big one.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's tough.
What about like Garrett Wilson? Are you okay having Garrett Wilson without Justin Fields? Obviously, Justin Fields gets so much work from his legs, like multiple games last year where he rushed for 2 touchdowns, but we're all kind of like being like, Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields back together again.
Yeah, that's a good example too. And I mean, I'd be lying if I said I was cool with it. Like, no, if I take Garrett Wilson, like I really, really, really want Justin Fields on that team. But and granted, DJ Moore ran super hot. I mean, Justin Fields did make DJ Moore a thing. I am curious to see what Garrett Wilson can do with Justin Fields, though, because I am a bit of a Justin Fields respecter, but like I understand his limitations. Is Garrett Wilson good enough that like even like Justin Fields can't bring his stats down? It seems like he's always kind of like flirting with disaster as far as like how his season runouts go. He's a tough one. I'll probably be at the field on Garrett Wilson. I can't imagine I'll be overweight, but yeah, that's a fun stack when you get it.
Yeah, how about you, Tyler? Like any teams kind of stand out as just ones where it's like if you don't have a piece, like a valuable piece of the passing game, then you're not just looking to backstack them for the sake of it.
Yeah, I mean, Dak, like no offense, I don't want to be backstacking him without Pickens or Lamb by any means. Like I do want to remember that like unless you're a true rushing quarterback, your scrambles and rush rates just decline every year that you're removed from your rookie season. You become a better passer. You become more functional in reading coverages. Your coaches want to run the offense better. And also, in Dak's case and a couple other guys, returning from lower body injury usually makes you less confident and less efficient. So yeah, just like examples like that outside of pocket passers, obviously. Joe Burrow being the obvious one, and that's a controversial take in this space these days, but as he goes, I believe unstacked
before we can even pass up on him the first time.
Yeah, T. Higgins.
Sure.
There we go.
Yep. No, yeah. I was surprised T went so early in this one. But yeah, so to your Hurts point, I think we saw the last few years, like an unstacked rushing quarterback is optimal because you're not having to get right who to stack him with. You're just getting the points of that offense, especially when they have dual threat rushing ability. Lamar, in his case, like, he was still a high advance rate player, obviously MVP-esque thing. To the passing point, like, Philly might pass more this year. And we don't know how exactly it's going to get divvied up, but that benefits Hurts. First
Defensive
and foremost,
regression's definitely real.
Yeah. And I also am going to like double tapping, Philly when I don't take Saquon as a game theory thing. And like, I'm getting all the pieces that don't include Saquon.
Okay, so we're back on the clock here. Nez, what are you feeling in this range?
So I'm looking at the Packers. I'm like kind of in on Diggs too because I like setting up a May stack. Can I get you guys to do Diggs?
Yeah,
I'm good with Diggs.
Good with Diggs, definitely. We like Stephen Diggs around this part.
Yeah.
And then Slicky Ricky is somebody that we keep taking, which would give us 5 wide receivers by that point. Can you make an argument for Caleb Johnson ahead of him as a Steelers fan?
No, I'm not like super in on Caleb as the rookie. I am like a little nervous about him. I like Ricky.
Let's do it.
I'm like nervous I like Ricky, but I do like Ricky.
Over the Green Bay stack, potentially set up a Love thing.
Yeah, I'm okay with it because we have Jacobs, and if you're really trying to play Week 17 optimal, probably doesn't really help over the course of advancing. Like I bet it does, but for Week 17 itself, probably not ideal. So you guys are giving me permission to be bullish on Ricky, even though he didn't have a good start to his season. I guess he did get shot, but.
Well, I mean, I think it was Eric Beinfeld talked about this with Sean Siegel and Colin Kelly on the Zero RB episode they did. Let's just bet on the first round wide receiver in the San Francisco offense. Like, there's, it can kind of be as simple as that, really, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think obviously Ricky Pearsall needs to stay healthy and he'd struggled with that before getting shot, but. I don't mind it. Like, I don't have much faith in Brandon Ayuk. He's not somebody I'm taking at ADP. Tyler, I know you're quite. Look, nobody grinds the coach speak, and nobody grinds the beat reporter stuff as much as yourself, Tyler. So, what's your current temperature on Brandon Ayuk? Because I feel like that's kind of evolved a little bit as the season's gone on.
Yeah. So, it's an extremely nuanced profile. So, like. Apparently, the Twitter docs I trust have historically comped his archetype to one that does well off this type of injury, which is hard for me to swallow because I started the season kind of fading him even in the hundreds coming off of this. His timeline is really tight from the ACL component and his age. Like, we're talking like 15 to 25 days on average that he could return to avoid PUP. So there's still like a decent chance he could start week 1 or sit week 1 but not get PUP because that's automatic 4 weeks. That said, the team's comments since February have been like, you could read them as, hey, we're not going to rush him back. We can be conservative about him. We don't need him to come back as long as Jennings and Rizzy and CMC are healthy, Kittle's healthy, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like, you're a Super Bowl contending roster that had a really bad 6-win season last year. You've paid Purdy. No need to rush your young, highly paid guy back. In Ayuk's case, it's also a weird, like, work ethic type of thing. He came in out of shape last summer during the holdout stuff. How committed to rehab is he? We can like do all these finer point things, but the measurable things tell me there's probably like a 30 to 40% chance right now that he's on PUP. Maybe that increases as we get more information. Maybe it's higher. Maybe it's like 60%. And then like 20 to 30%, he starts week 1 or he starts week 2. So like but like if we're drafting him knowing that he might miss the first few weeks and have to ramp up, and we should expect a physical ramp up anyway. So he's his true self. That said, as a size guy, he could pop on random touchdowns without needing the efficiency. But typically the way you overcome a performance dip physically as you try to return 100% is through volume. And that's the one thing his archetype on this offense has lacked. He's really lacked like being a target hog. So it's high risk, high reward, especially before we even consider any sort of like setback. all that to say, I think that benefits the range of outcomes in a year 2 player like Ricky Pearsall, who, I think he's a little expensive for what we saw, but I'm kind of buying into Shanny saying I liked how he grew. I went back and grind the coach speak, and Shanny was like, he really broke out in this game where he was able to run these routes and do them well. And Matt Harmon came to that same conclusion on his own, charting him saying, hey, these were big boy routes, and the way he played these fits really well with how they're trying to evolve this offense.
Okay.
So from that standpoint, I like buying into a young player that I'm hearing two things from, that he could be tapping into something this offense needs, and any sort of setback from Ayuk benefits him bigly.
It's so nuanced that I was hoping to have a drawn conclusion from that, but now I'm like, wow, those are two really good potential range of outcomes. I think and I know we're about to pick, when you have Diggs to compare to Ayuk, and we see Diggs running and cutting and not being limited versus Ayuk,
exactly.
It makes the Ayuk stuff harder to swallow.
It's the ACL versus ACL, MCL, isn't it? Back on the clock, 20 seconds to go. Jordan Mason at top of ADP, and then Jalen Warren, who, if you're not in on Caleb Johnson, are you in on Jalen Warren, Nez?
I'm just kind of really worried about this offense. Guys, my pick here is Najee Harris. I'm not going to lie.
Let's do it. Good with that.
Can we do it? Can you?
Oh, yeah. Brother, relax. I got this. I just want to make you sweat a little bit. All right, what's the second pick here, Nez?
Dude, I do not like this range at all. Purdy probably makes the most sense with Ricky. We lost because we lost Kyler like 2 picks ahead. That was
I like Purdy
a little bit.
I like Purdy just fine.
Okay.
Yeah. That one makes a lot of sense. Sorry, just like going back to the Jalen Hurts stuff, just because whilst you guys were talking, I pulled up some RotoViz's Advanced Rate Explorer for the stacks, and like the one which we didn't talk about is, what about stacking Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley together again? Like, if you're gonna draft Saquon Barkley, you believe that he can do incredible things again. Like, his advance rate last year was ridiculous at 48%. But if you stacked Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley together, you had a 55% advance rate last year. There were 4,400 teams who did it. Now, again, like, these things always get a little finicky coming towards the finals because Saquon flamed out a little bit in the playoffs. But like, is maybe that the one which nobody's talking about that we should be going, okay, well, that worked really well last year. They're going to keep tush pushing. They're going to keep feeding Saquon a ridiculous volume. And if Saquon comes close to paying off his ADP, then maybe that's just the way to do it.
I like stacking the rushing quarterbacks with their running backs and just saying, I'm buying all the touchdowns, especially when they're like top 5 offense potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it can definitely work. I mean, we saw last year, I believe it was last year, El grew his winning lineup, like didn't even use like his first, like so many of his first 5 picks, like their scores were not even used in his, winning BBM lineup. And obviously, I'm trying to I am giving way more credence to like building the best week 17 lineup possible. And, ideally, you're not really doing running back and quarterback, but if you are building the team correctly, I think it can work and can still help you get to the finals, period. It's just like, I'd have to kind of like talk myself into stacking both of them. But yeah, I mean, if they're both going to have just like absurd seasons, hell yeah, sign me up. And, I'm probably just like, leading myself to my own demise by, soft fading Saquon again. But I mean, God,
yeah,
certainly regression is going to come for this dude, right?
I mean,
well, you've got the argument of over 400 touches, running backs off that periodically just don't do well. You've got the guys who've rushed for 1,500 yards typically tend to regress massively the next season as well. So, like, sooner or later, you'd like to believe that we'll be on the right side of fading Saquon. But man, like, last year wasn't fun. Like, yeah,
no,
as Neil said, you can't keep getting away with it.
The tough part the tough part about that is like, he could, like, this offense could pass more, and they could just decide to give more easy stuff to Saquon to avoid any sort of like, like, hey, Hurts, if you're not seeing it open and it's not feeling easy, just give it to Saquon. Let it see, like, just doing yak stuff. The offensive line still strong. Hurts still a strong, like, proponent of like this RPO stuff that allows Saquon to be super efficient. Like, he could hit regression in a lot of ways and still just like own us on the touchdowns alone because this is still a top 5 offense with a top 3 Super Bowl favorite. I'm also a little afraid that like week 17, they decide the best way to battle out Josh Allen is keep him on the bench as much as possible and just bang in Hurts and Saquon away. A few things I did just want to touch on though is like for Flowers, you mentioned he kind of fell off. I went back and looked. He had a foot ankle sprain week 7, and we know that those tend to impact skill players, even when they're not major. And he also kind of, and I think Ryan at Fantasy Points ran this down. And I love this. He and Bateman saw almost identical opportunities, deep and valuable, and Bateman just ran way more pure on them. So like it goes the other way. Like Flowers becoming more cheap as an access to an awesome offense that allows me to kind of leverage off of Henry and also just Lamar, who continues to be better as a passer. I'm into that, especially because we saw that he's able to take over games as a deep and screen yak guy. And the comments suggest they want to keep growing his role and allowing him to become a better, stronger passer. Sadly, Dak goes. We can't stack him up here. Where are we going here? Because I think May also goes. So we can pull up Love, or we've got Herbert with Najee. You're not exactly the biggest QB running back type of guy. What do we want to do?
That is interesting because I think Herbert could spread it around a little bit. What other let's just cue him. What other running backs do we have available? Not like in love with these.
So Javonte, Tajay, Ray Davis.
Yeah, let's just take Herbert here, and then good.
So then obviously we could go running backs discussed in wide receiver, Kyle Williams, Marvin Mims, Christian Kirk. We could backstack obviously with Christian Kirk if you wanted to. Nez, anybody else you'd make a shout for? Or
I think Kirk or Tajay Spears would probably be my options here.
I like Spears. Let's pull Spears up.
Yeah. I think we need the running back scoring here. I like what we have so far. Like I think Jacobs super solid. I think Najee is going to have a really good role in what I think is going to be a really good offense, and I think that makes Herbert and Najee a good pairing. Because I mean, if Herbert's not balling, it's not going to be very very fun for Najee. Interchanging with Amari and I've always I take Spears every single best ball season.
Yeah, and the other thing about Najee is he's also like a pretty strong target earner. He doesn't do as much as like his detractors, but like it's still like he can catch passes, and we know that Greg Roman, it's not the biggest target share offense historically, but we know they like to try to play ball control, and Herbert's pretty friendly to RBs in that aspect. So one of my things I keep telling myself is like Herbert keeps getting cheaper, but they keep talking about using him more as a rusher, which was an underrated addition of him last year in this offense. So like Greg Roman's like everybody gonna run in this offense, and I like that for fantasy wise. Like that unlocks Herbert unlocks like another tier of QB in best ball, like getting rushing work. And I'm also telling myself that like, hey, if I am gonna backstack one of these guys, it's probably gonna be Herbert in an offense where we've seen Roman and Harbaugh just say like whoever's open, and we're going to scheme whatever. We will throw to the tight end 3. We will throw to the tackle. We will throw to the RB3. Like it doesn't matter. So I'm very comfortable as Herbert being one of my bailout guys because this offense was way more efficient than we thought. It was able to hit pass rate over expected way higher than any of the market and the haters and losers, of which I was one, thought they could do. I love Ladd. Trey Harris is an interesting add to this offense. QJ, still had his dropsies, but was a really valuable yak guy, taking, advantage of soft coverages. They add awesome RBs compared to what they had from an athletic and, health perspective last year. Yep. The offensive line gets healthy. There's a lot of reasons to like the Chargers offense, and no one seems that excited about it, even for the fun pieces. There's FUD on Ladd, there's FUD on Hampton, there's FUD on Najee. So I'm like, let me just get good pieces of a potentially really good offense and let it the chips fall where they may.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just going back to the Tajay Spears pick, like we've been quite bullish about the Titans in general. And, one of those reasons we talk about the offensive line and the coaching. And as a whole, you're talking about a team who ranked 27th in points scored per game last year, 23rd in plays per game. And it feels like they're still being priced down a little bit because of that stink that Will Levis left on the team. So, I find that like pretty much every draft I seem to be drafting at least one Titans player, and maybe a bunch of them don't work out, but I'm willing to just take the shots and figure it out.
Yeah, it's mostly in Superflex for me right now because I draft a ton of running backs in Superflex, but I draft a lot of.
Good too. It feels good.
It does. It's fun. I'd a lot of Tony Pollard for me in Superflex. I'm kind of like left between Tony Pollard, Swift, or Aaron Jones a lot of the time in like that tier, and I'm sort of like cycling through trying to get a healthy amount of all three. This Cam Ward could be like a revelation for these Titans and for Calvin Ridley, especially. And you know, I'm admittedly, you know, sleeping a bit on Calvin Ridley. His name's just like, it's not like I don't like him. His name's just like invisible to me. You know, I just have like a manual block on him.
Yeah, we've been putting a lot of him.
Yeah,
I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna change that.
I started to get worried about how much I was clicking him because I was like, Cam Ward is aggressive deep. If he's way better as a passer than we think, this is like a Stroud-esque like bump to Nico and everybody, right? But then the coach speak this week was, and we're moving Ridley all over the place. We want to use him everywhere. And I was like, oh, well, shit. I mean, if he's just going to be the target hog and getting slot stuff and whatever, then like him getting expensive is fine if this offense is going to run through him, which makes sense, right? Like make it easy, make it usable. And if he's going to get easy stuff and the deep stuff, then his ceiling, like he has weird hands and he does weird things, but his like at the end of the day, his volume could be insane if the efficiency and the accuracy is there. And we're just talking about a guy that could easily be like an easy avoid in round 3 next year, but a huge buy in rounds 5 and 6 this year.
Yeah, by the grace of God, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Seriously, I mean, how?
Volume, baby, volume.
I see guys that I want to take here.
All right, speak your truth.
All right, so like I'm Dobbins and or Rachaad White here. We don't have to take both, but like I'm buying Dobbins. Like I've been buying Dobbins, and I'm not slowing up anytime soon.
I'm not the biggest fan of this wide receiver tier at all.
No, man. We can, if we do these two, we can shut it down and then kind of make it rain in the piss category after this.
No, I'm good with that. I like both those players. I think they're both players who are going to increase in price as well. I've got a video actually coming out probably Wednesday or Thursday on the channel talking about my top 10 favorite backup running backs, and Rachaad White's one of them because like it just seems like everyone's enamored with Bucky Irving, and like don't get me wrong, like Bucky Irving won me money last year and a decent amount of it. Like Bucky Irving was phenomenal. But what Rachaad White does is something that matters so well fantasy football. And it's something JJ Zachariason's banged on about all offseason, that catching the ball just matters more than anything else at the running back position. And I just think Rachaad White earns targets, but he's also good enough that they designed so many screens for him. Like I think he ranked third or second in among running backs in design targets, and part of that is a scheme thing, which maybe that changes a little bit now the Bucs offense is changing. But like I don't think that the new offensive coordinator is going to come in there and rip up everything that we did with Rachaad White.
Yeah, sorry,
he's also a trusted pass blocker, in like long down and distance. So if they're in pass games, like he's going to have access to like these high scoring outlets if they need to catch up, and that gives him a lot of utility and value.
Yeah, I've been clicking him a lot lately. Like I think 140 is just like flat incorrect for a guy that has his own pass catching role, like you were outlining, Tom. Plus the contingency value upside of him is just like nuts. Just think about where we were drafting him last year before we knew Bucky was the guy. It's just wild.
Yeah, and just to the chat, like people on the Ridley debate, I'm at 23% Calvin Ridley. That's probably, if I would like that to just fall a touch to around 20% or so, but I'm okay with it.
Oh boy, what am I at?
I'm making it my mission to get more Calvin Ridley. I mean, I was bullish on this guy last year. Like, why would I not? Why would I not be bullish again?
I think in that range, I probably want to be taking more Kenneth Walker. I'm at 12%. I don't have enough George Pickens. He's kind of like sitting at 5%. Jalen Waddle 11%. Chuba Hubbard 5%. There's probably been I've been too heavy on the wide receivers in that range and not heavy enough on George Pickens. But Amari and Hampton's not somebody I'm clicking a lot of. Alvin Kamara's not someone I'm clicking a lot of. And RJ Harvey at cost hasn't been somebody I've really wanted. I only draft him when he falls past ADP.
I feel like he's not even falling that much after the J.K. Dobbins signing, which I'm just like, guys, please.
His bulls say, let him get cheaper. I want so much. I'm like, then stop clicking him at ADP, you sickos.
Like, what is happening?
I've seen him go ahead of ADP like 3 times, and I'm like, we can't just act like nothing happened. Like, I'm okay saying he can get cheaper, it can still hit its price, but like, come on. Like, we're not taking him over Kamara right now.
No.
Just in projection alone is wrong. Kellen Moore is good for this offense. The offensive line getting healthy and adding a first round lineman is good. Like, I know age sucks. Harvey's not some spring chicken. Like, can we just adjust just a little bit? Just a little
bit. But come on, guys. We just signed Cam Akers.
I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to dunk on the Kendra and Devin Neal folks who I am sick of hearing from, and I showed a level of maturity, and all I did was tweet LOL. But I mean, to talk about like the biggest risk to Kamara's workload just got pretty good competition. So no.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty funny that, like, you know, for years we waited for Dennis Allen to leave, and then all of a sudden he leaves, and straight away the new coaching staff go, no, what we need is Cam Akers. So, bad times for Kendra Miller, bad times for Devin Neal, but look, yeah.
Rest in piss, derogatory, Kendra Miller and Devin Neal.
For me, I'm just like worried that the offense is just like, we saw Kamara just become useless when that offense fell apart last year, and I'm worried that it's going to be another really bad time. But I'm mixing. I have a healthy amount of Kamara. Don't get me wrong, but I'm slowly like trying to like pump the brakes on that because, like, man, there is some strong systemic risk there.
Right. We're about to be back on the clock. Pat Frymouth, who I thought would jump a bit more in ADP, goes right before us. Wan'Dale Robinson sitting there. Hunter Henry for a little more kind of New England correlation with Stephon Diggs. Anybody that you want to make a shout for?
I do like Hunter Henry.
Straight touchdowns, baby.
Yeah, and then we can just like forget about tight end after that, which is nice. And unfortunately, we didn't get the Drake May stack, but I think these are 2 guys that could finish above where they're being drafted for sure. Quarterback wise, it doesn't look awesome for us here. I'm like pro Sam Darnold, but I'm like hearing out these like injury clause people now and kind of chilling on him. I think Alec Pierce is interesting, and I think I'm taking a lot of Keenan Allen, but I don't want to force you guys to do that. I do that on every show.
I like Keenan just fine. Let's try to set up a dimes thing. If we can get late dimes in Pierce, and then maybe even add another Indy guy and AD Mitchell. It sounds like all these guys are having pretty strong camps, and I think dimes. I was already someone that thought like dimes was going to start more than the market was saying he was before this unprompted AC joint injury that now is even more likely to flare up in season. So just from a health standpoint, dimes projected starts, increase, I think, by at least 2 to 3 games. We've seen these shoulder injuries shut guys down potentially. I think without Irsay in town, I think that they have a little bit more wiggle room to like figure things out and show that they can do some, black magic with dimes like Dable did not so long ago. Since this will be the best offensive environment Daniel Jones has seen since that team, and guys that have shown like Flacco was also kind of dog shit last year. If you
nobody talks about this enough. They're talking about drafting him for the Browns. It's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
Everybody's like, we need to be drafting David Njoku because Joe Flacco's going to go nuclear. And
it was volume heavy, sure, but the efficiency was atrocious. Like even short area was bad, and like dimes has been serviceable. Which this quarterback accuracy has yet to do. So I'm buying all the cheap pieces in this team just because we've seen this offense get very concentrated and very aggressive. And if the quarterback plays any bit better, boom. If any of these guys miss, contingency, boom. Also, week 17 versus Jacksonville. projects to be 2 bad defenses in a divisional game, with probably a coaching staff coaching for their jobs or just to prove that, like, hey, don't fire me as the interim guy. And I also been thinking, like, if the GM and the head coach get fired, who's the interim coach going to start? AR or Dimes? Probably the quarterback he trusts to, like, move the chains more often. I know there's a lot of galbranding we can do, but at the end of the day, I think Pierce is someone you would expect to be priced much more expensive and be like, oh, I have to fade that because he's going to regress in touchdowns. He can regress in touchdowns. He still led the team in receiving last year. And, that wasn't because people missed multiple games or anything. He was just really good. And I think that, like, even in a rotationary basis, like, best ball is about hit my lineup and crack it good. And a lot of these guys have shown that they can do that. Like Michael Wilson over Alec Pierce. Like, why would I do that unless it's for a stack?
Yeah, no, I think Alec Pierce does something really, he's an archetype and he does what he does pretty well. And I think the way that this Indy team is set up, like, they're just, and I'm not saying Danny Dimes is a world beater, but, like, I had a lot of Danny Dimes last year and I didn't think, I just thought that he wasn't, that bad. This team is begging for, like, a passer. This team, like, Anthony Richardson is just not the fit for this offense, in my opinion, just given the way that he plays and his arm and the way this offense is set up. Like, this offense with Jonathan Taylor as the starting running back, with these are really skilled pass catchers. Downs, Pittman, Pierce,
Tyler Warren. Let's not forget him. Like, somebody like, he wasn't my tight end one amongst the rookies. Like, I was team Loveland, but, like, there's no denying that Tyler Warren, again, can work the intermediary. And that is just, like, 100-mile-an-hour balls from Anthony Richardson going 5 yards wide of him. Like, like, plenty of us loved Anthony Richardson for all the right reasons for fantasy. But when you complete passes across a wide open spell at a rate lower than Tim Tebow, I've not got time for it.
No, there's these coaches do not have that level of, they're not afforded that level of patience, by their bosses. They're just not. Like, they need to win games and they need to put together a solid resume so when they do get fired, they can get hired again. Yeah. And so it's just like Anthony Richardson does not afford you that luxury, unfortunately. Like, he's a down the road next team, type of player because he's still so young, but, like, he's started, like, less than 30 games in his life at quarterback. Like,
where Anthony Richardson needs to go is to a franchise with stability and with good quarterback coaching and with no pressure. And we've seen that play out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But right now, he's not somebody I'm drafting, regardless of the fact that he's the only quarterback in the last 5 rounds who averaged over more than 30 rushing yards a game last year at, like, a ridiculous 47. I just don't believe in his upside. But we're coming back around for round 16, 17 picks. Jackson Dart is somebody Tyler's thrown in the queue. DJ Giddens, Marshawn Lloyd, and then it's into the wide receivers. Nez, what do you think the team needs right now?
Just a disgusting, appalling snipe by Mason DePauli. Like, I don't care who you have on your team. I mean, that's just rude.
You motherfuckers.
Holy shit. Are we just riding with these two QBs?
I would not be mad at just Purdy and Herbert. They both have underrated rushing floor and ceilings. And if Jackson Dart's still available at the end, I don't mind naked rushing Dart, but I'm good with, you shouted Keenan. I love the Keenan shout here.
Okay. I know it's becoming, like, more and more grim by the minute that, like, Keenan doesn't sign anywhere, but, like, I just refuse to think that he's not playing football.
Yeah,
he could show up in July and be fine. I'm still leaving the light on.
We got a Neil stamp of approval.
What's the word on Dante Thornton? Are you guys buying Dante Thornton?
No,
not right now.
Speed guys in shorts, I'm fading early.
Yeah, we'll come back to that, but like my
Tutu, AD. Who do you like, Tom?
Well, I like Tutu, but maybe AD for the upside. Tyler?
Yeah, let's just take 2 shots on Indianapolis, and like AD showed us a lot. One of these guys give me a spike. I don't care which one, and maybe it's both throughout the playoffs.
No, I love Tutu, but I've been drafting too much Tutu.
I mean, we kind of just did this with QJ, right? Like, it was kind of an ugly rookie year for QJ, drops, routes, etc.
Yeah.
But he comes in, he puts in the work. New staff, uses him better, but still, it's like all the coach speak is that Pierce and AD have had super strong camps. Pittman has had this weird back injury that he almost got IR'd for, but then wasn't. So it's like if Pittman misses any time, whatever. We saw that, AD was just given that role on the outside. 2 cheap shots at an upside offense for just touchdown hunting, especially when one of them is a year 2 guy. I don't mind it at all, especially because like 80 looked good, and it's a little disgusting, but when you look at the options, it's like, well, if you're gonna crack our lineup when we took, early guy like Chase and then detoured late, I think these are the types of bets you make. A vet that could come in and dominate, because Keenan was the best receiver on his team last year. So that's why I have a hard time believing he's just going to walk away. I think he's just waiting for a team to give him the deal he wants. He came out and said, I don't want to retire. I have these teams I want to sign. Like the confidence in like what he could do and what he could bring to a team is still pretty strong.
Well, let's not forget though, but Steelers beat writer Mark Coley tweeted that this team was just Keenan Allen signing away from winning the AFC Championship, wasn't it? And
facts.
Yep. On that point, Nez, like, we got to talk about Steelers. Like, Randall saying Roman Wilson's stealing drafts. Rodgers is going to love that guy. Are you buying the Calvin Austin stuff, or do you think it is Roman Wilson who can, if he's injury free in his second year in the league, could actually become Rodgers' kind of best friend?
No, I think it's Calvin Austin. I think I think like pretty firmly Calvin Austin over Roman Wilson. I don't know what it is, man, and maybe I'm just like pattern matching and overfitting, but something about rookies getting hurt and never playing, like I just think that just rubs coaching staffs like so bad. They just do not. They just don't jive with like rookies that get hurt and can't be on the field.
Even simpler than that. Rotoviz did this research. This was why I was out on JMO rookie year 1. Rotoviz did extensive research that skill position players that miss a majority of their rookie years almost never amount to anything, especially not in the year removed from that, because like the time you're missing to acclimate to the NFL, learn the playbook, learn the routes, get the reps, that stuff is so valuable, and missing that puts you behind the 8 ball so much. It's a testament to JMO coming back and being able to like put it together for his year 3 breakout. It took the entire team committing to him, one of the best offensive environments we've seen, and one of potentially the best play callers we've seen. Top 5 guy, just got promoted. So it's like, and the ways he was used was like, hey, clear this out, give him plenty of yak. Like, was he like world breaking? No, but his skills were utilized well, but it took till year 3 to really put it all together. And so in Roman Wilson's case, like, I have a hard time buying that. Like he missed so much of last year because of injuries, and he was already like off to a bad start in camp before the injuries took place, if memory serves right. Yeah. And as you said, like Arthur Smith is a vet deference kind of guy, and Roman is also kind of a slot guy. How often is this team going to run 3 receivers on the field with Aaron Rodgers and a suspect line? I don't think very often.
No, especially whenever they're trying. It seems like they're scorched earth trying to get a second tight end on this team. They're rumored for Pitts, rumored for Jonnu. So they clearly are trying to do something, and can't really get it done. If you want to draft Roman Wilson to your heart's content, by all means, there's you just never know. Maybe this guy was better than we thought, but I'm not doing that. Neil kind of made the joke earlier, like I'm rooting for the Steelers' demise. I do want them to be bad. I do want to have a nice draft pick. I just don't think it's going to happen. It just, Mike Tomlin just refuses to put out a bad team, and the defense is going to be really good. So maybe, that is bullish for Caleb Johnson. I just don't really have a lot of faith in this offense. Like I liked Metcalf when I thought the offense environment was going to be better. I worry about Metcalf. I worry about the offense. I have some serious concerns about the Steelers offense. I'm not bullish.
Yeah, I hear Calvin Austin's our wide receiver 2, and I hear you need a wide receiver 2, and they did too, back-to-back years that they were trying to trade for Cortland Sutton, Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah,
they need a receiver 2, and that's why it's like hell, Keenan with Rodgers, like that'll play like a route runner, over the shoulder stuff. Like I think that he's just waiting out to be like, what's my best offer going to be? I don't think a team willingly rolls into the season with one good receiver and Aaron Rodgers. I don't see that happen.
It should be Keenan. It should be. They have the money.
Yeah.
Keenan would be a good fit, and Keenan would be the right kind of player to, the fan base would feel happy with that one. And then it's like you can start to actually build a positive case for them, as opposed to right now. It's just, it's very difficult.
I like Keenan Allen, Tom, but that felt slightly derogatory that you were talking about. Oh, the fan base they'll eat that one up, like old Dusty Keenan. But
Hey, look, I mean,
I digress. They're not the smartest bunch.
As a Ravens fan, my hopes and dreams have been put on old dusty wide receivers on more than one occasion. So
what would we like to do? 2-5-8-2 with this team. I don't feel we're really lacking anywhere. Do we want a sixth receiver? Do we want a ninth or sixth running back, a ninth receiver, a dart on tight end 3, a QB3? What suits our fancy here?
Who's been your favorite last round pick?
Taj Brooks, Ricky Mostert.
I like Brooks. Let's do Brooks. Taj Brooks.
Ah!
Come on, Tyler.
Boom. Got it.
Wow. Whew. That was good. No, I like Taj Brooks a lot, man, because I'm not really betting on Chase Brown. And I believe the coach speak is Taj Brooks over Zach Moss right now. So
yeah,
you definitely want to have access to who could be the RB1 for Cincy.
Yeah, I mean, just in an injury, if Chase misses time, they figure to use multiple backs, and Brooks is like Pirine has size, but he's never really been their goal line. Like even when he was splitting with Mixon and had his breakout year, Mixon was still like the preferred goal line guy. It was Pirine was just like really blowing up on the pass involvement stuff, and it seems like Brooks has had a pretty solid year. So yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm fading some dusty guys to do it.
Yeah. We did miss out on Josh Reynolds, though, who has become like a bit of a hot topic over last week.
What will I do without Josh Reynolds with Justin Fields?
Josh Reynolds has been plenty fantasy viable. Nez, are you clicking Josh Reynolds much?
No, I gotta give a shout out to Josh Reynolds though. My first like big contest that I won on Underdog during the Battle Royale season was a goal line stand, which was a 12-person drafts, and Josh Reynolds was a Lion, and they were down their wide receiver 1, and it was like Josh Reynolds and Tyler Hawkinson day with Jared Goff against the Seahawks, and I'll never forget that. That was my first big score. So shout out Josh Reynolds. He always has a place in my heart. But
hell yeah.
Don't think I'm gonna do that. Don't think I'm gonna get there.
If it was like, here's the thing: I'm not taking wide receiver ambiguous wide receiver 2s on like bottom 5 pass volume offenses, because like that's what 2.5 targets a game. Oh, that gets me all hot and bothered. I'll take a wide receiver 3 on a top team before I take that. Like the wide receiver 2 thing is like I don't care unless he's good and the offense is good. If not, like I'm really not that interested outside of like pure stacking, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Like how viable was the wide receiver 2 in Chicago with Justin Fields? Like it was wide receiver 1, running back 1, tight end
1. Neil's cooking you, Tyler. But the rest of the chat are not, and very much love the team. Tyler, for anybody listening on the podcast feed available through the YouTube Music app, would you kindly recap it?
I would love to service the audio folks. We finished with a 2-6-8-2 with our boy Nez, Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert. You don't need anybody else. We didn't see the snipes. We don't acknowledge the snipes. We refuse. The snipes never happened. Josh Jacobs, Najee, Tajay Spears, Rashad White, J.K. Dobbins. And by the way, no one noticed, but I made sure we took J.K. Dobbins second to keep his ADP slightly lower. Yeah, sharp moves.
Thank you.
Taj Brooks as our rookie dart. I don't mind it at all. Little correlation with Jamar, George Pickens, Zay Flowers, Stephon Diggs, Ricky Pearsall, Alec Pierce, Keenan Allen, A.D. Mitchell, and then at tight end we got Trey McGronk and the Tyler Lockett at tight ends, Hunter Henry.
The Tyler Lockett at tight ends. That's
beautiful. Nez, how do you feel about it?
I like the team.
I like this team a lot, man. I mean, I think anytime you start with Jamar Chase, like in our 4th wide receiver is Steph Diggs, in our 5th wide receiver is Ricky Pearsall. I feel great about it. The weakest position I think is QB, but one of them is Justin Herbert, and the other one is a stacked Brock Purdy, who is still the quarterback of the 49ers. I like this team a lot, man. I think the running back position, I don't know if maybe this isn't other people's fancies, but like I really like the way that we put this running back room together. I'm like, I know it's like a bit at this point, but like I'm legit just like not understanding why people don't like Najee Harris on what should be the best offensive environment he's ever been in. So I really like this team, man. I think this team is for sure advancing. We just need our big white QBs to spike for us in the playoffs and take us to the promised land.
Yeah, I love that point. And it kind of made me think, I'm in on Pickens, I'm in on Najee this year. Maybe it's just kind of that thing that when players leave the Steelers, I become more in on them. So, hey,
hard not to be.
Yeah, particularly over the last few years.
Here's a fun little thought exercise. What's really the functional difference of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris when you think about roles, athletic prowess, and underrated offenses?
I'm just going to, before anyone answers that, somebody said to me today that DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson could be exactly the same as that. So
I wonder what that pattern matching is all about. It couldn't be one Jen Benson. Yeah, I also just want to point out one of the final points I wanted to make when you asked about Ricky versus Ayuk is I think at the end of the day, I just want to buy every piece of San Francisco. They're all pretty well priced, risk and whatever, argue with yourself, but they have the number one softest projected schedule right now by a wide margin. This is an offense that outside of a implosion of injury and bad luck last year were Super Bowl contenders, a top 5, top 10 offense. They project really well as a team every week. And everybody's role is ambiguous. Those are all reasons to buy. So I just want as much San Francisco as I can get. Brock Purdy, underrated spike as a pocket passer, also as a rusher. And we mentioned the reasons buying to Herbert. So it's I want as much Chargers and San Francisco 49ers as I can get because I feel like a lot of their pieces are underrated. And they have underrated spikes. And at the end of the day, we're trying to thread the needle. I think it's really solid archetypes at really solid prices, and then mixing and matching those combos. And that, I wouldn't be mad rolling into week 17 with a lot of these guys with their contingent roles, their Vegas projected totals, and there's a lot of other if you could really fast forward, you're how many of these guys and teams do you want on your squad? And you, as you mentioned, I don't want to take too much away from every winner, especially last year. So much of the field was injured, but that's one reason to be draft you're right. And at the end of the day, we're going to get a multitude of injuries. They're going to ruin our day every week for 17 weeks. We don't have to be perfect by any means. We just have to be right when it matters. And I think one of the easiest ways you can do that is buying underrated offenses or players on really good offenses and let the cards fall where they may when it comes to health and when it comes to how the spikes come out. You don't have to be perfect. And I've tried to be perfect in the past. I don't have to be perfect, but I can get myself as close to right as possible in a majority of the ways I can do that. It's just simplifying to say good players, good offenses, go Burr.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, to your point about you don't have to be perfect. The team that won last year, it was an Isaiah Pacheco team. They drafted Pacheco in round 5. They had a complete zero all year from Jermaine Burton. They had Noah Fant at tight end. They had, Ty Chandler, somebody who didn't contribute in a meaningful way. We don't have to be perfect if you can hit the right combinations of spikes at the right times. And I really like this team. I think I'm really excited about it. And it's no surprise that one of the best teams that we've built over the last few weeks comes on a stream with Nez, because consistently always enjoy having you on the channel, Nez. What have you guys got going on with BadgeBros this week, which of course everyone should sub to?
Oh, well, thank you, Tom, Tyler. It's always a pleasure getting to talk with you guys. So we are talking tomorrow. I think we're going to do weekly winners on our channel with Pete Overzet. And
Who?
then Peter Overzet. I can spell that for you. So we've been kind of doing all sorts of NFL content with him. And then we talk daily content every day. If you guys are like battle royales, if you happen to like baseball, we talk baseball almost every single day about those slates that are going on as well. Thanks for having me on, guys. This is fun as always. Hope to do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's always a lot of fun. Tyler, where's the Tyful Tower?
I believe that's on PPR Tyler's channel this week. And if I'm wrong, I don't care. You'll know. We'll send the links out. We'll make it really easy for all y'all. We've heard you like to be degraded and talked down to on the Typhel Tower, so we're here to serve and give the people what they want because you ain't getting that for free anywhere else. I've checked.
In terms of what you get here on the channel, tomorrow night, Rich will be live with our good friend Lewis doing a live Dynasty trade show. They will be literally taking polls in the chat to decide whether they're actually going to accept the trades or not. So if you're in leagues with them, send them some dog shit offers and then they'll come and spam the chat. And their integrity means they'll have to take it. I will be releasing my top 10 favorite backup running back video on Wednesday or Thursday. And then next Wednesday, I'll be back drafting on FFPC Superflex. But next Monday, we have got the ghost hunter himself, Rob Coakley, joining us. So if you're around, make sure you subscribed so that you catch that one. Truly appreciate everybody hanging out tonight. This has been a lot of fun. Nez, we will be hanging out in a few months' time when we are $2 million richer between us. Thanks for everybody. This has been great fun. We'll catch you soon.